Hi, welcome to this edition of Sojourners Along the Way. Occasionally, when we film a program, we do the introduction after we've recorded the program, and that's the case today, which is really exciting because there is so much information that you are going to gain from this particular program. Arlene Basel is a chip foodie, and you're going to see her in action today. She is going to transform this studio into a kitchen minus the stove and the sink and refrigerator. You can tell there's a wealth of resources on the table, and due to time constraints, Arlene is only going to speak about one of them. You may realize that the background is different. The reason is the green screen that ACTV uses was cutting my nose off, and it was cutting half of my face off, and I didn't like that. I'm glad it happened to me and not to my guest, but we've made certain adjustments for that. And the green screen gave my guest and me green halos. Now, if they're going to give a halo, I want my halo to be gold, not green. Also, you may notice on the program that it is now having brackets around the letters SAW, which stands for Sojourners Along the Way. I've been learning a lot of things, and as I learn them, I try to incorporate it into the program so I can give you better quality programs. That's the goal. I also want to give you some directions on how to find Sojourners Along the Way. Yes, Time Warner Network, which maybe some of you are doing that right now, but you can also go to the internet. There are several ways that you can get to Sojourners Along the Way from the internet. If you don't have a computer, you don't have the internet, that's no problem. The public libraries have it. And also Ohio University has a community card that you can get, and then you have the internet available that way. And the Ohio University and also Athens County Library, I can't speak for any of the others because I haven't been to them, but they're very, very helpful and very patient. So they will help you, and you can gain computer skills that way too. One of the directions is to go to the website of actv23.com. You can find the logo for Sojourners Along the Way. Click on that until it's in the center. Click on it again, and it'll give you the playlist of all the programs that have been produced for Sojourners Along the Way. Google is now being very helpful, and you can type in Sojourners Along the Way. There's one program that was done with Rachel Karmazar-Bow, who is the current head coach for the OU swim team and diving team. And I think that because she was an Olympian, she had won a gold medal and a silver medal, that they have that program. Also, if you put Sojourners Along the Way in the subject line, Sojourners Along the Way YouTube, and that will take you to the playlist for Sojourners Along the Way. If you have a mobile device, you now have the opportunity to get it on your mobile device. See all the things I've been learning? If you don't have the flash, you go to actv.com and you follow the prompts for a mobile device, and you have to go to watch full episodes and then choose a playlist from there. So there's lots of ways to find the Sojourners Along the Way. Today's program is with Arlene Basel, who has, again, she's transforming this area into a kitchen. She is a chip foodie, and Arlene is going to give you recipes that you can find on ACTV. Since Arlene gave directions, very explicit directions on how to find the lima beans in one of the stores that she mentions during the program, I felt it was only right that we also mention the two other stores and their location. If you're not familiar with the two specialty stores that are in Athens County, one is called Bulk Food Depot, the other is called the Pharmacy. Bulk Food Depot is located on Radford Road, which is County Road 19. Going from Athens to Albany, it'll be on your left-hand side, same side as Carter Lumber. The Pharmacy is located on Stimson Avenue. It's 28 Stimson Avenue, not too far from the post office. And I hope you will take advantage of both of these places because they have a lot to offer.
I want to show you two quick things. I have a lot of websites and books to show you and talk about. And so get paper and pencil ready. But I want to say that some people like to watch something on television or a DVD. So I highly recommend Forks Over Knives. Excellent documentary. I would get that. Library has it. You could buy it. Netflix has it. The other thing, I talk about steaming things, steaming vegetables. I just want to show you real quickly what a steamer pot is if you're not familiar. It has holes in it. And then there's a bottom pot. You put the water in the bottom, and then you can steam something on a kind of a low boil. But also, you don't have to buy a steamer pot. You can make them any way you want. You can also buy a simple insert like this, put it in, and you got a steamer pot. Well, I love to cook and I love to eat. And I grew up thinking that it really didn't matter what I put in my body. I would eat what I liked, which was just about everything, especially sweets, fried foods, you name it, I ate everything. Didn't realize what it was doing and that it impacts what's impacting my body. So I started to get interested in nutrition and health probably about 40 years ago. And I did things like, I'm not going to eat the white flour, I'll go to whole wheat flour. Just small, like that. And I started with eliminating some things in my diet. But when you really think about food and what we eat, we don't think about our bodies like sometimes we think about a car. Because a car, you're not going to put lemon juice in a car. You're going to put gasoline in a car. Because you want the car to run, and you want it to run well, and so you take care of it. Well, a lot of times we don't think about our bodies like that, but our bodies are like that. And what we eat and what we don't eat makes such a big difference in our health. So back in 1996, I went to a conference called the National Health Association, and I think maybe I called myself a semi-vegetarian at that point. And I found out about them, and I wanted to know how they ate. So my husband and I went to this conference in Florida, and I found out what they ate. And though they dealt with, stress and exercise and other things that are important, my main focus was, what do you eat and what do you don't eat? So it was really back then when I realized, after listening to the doctors and the people that spoke, that a healthy plant-based diet was really important for our health. So then it was 2011, and I found out that somebody in Athens, I used to go to Florida for conferences, or maybe Columbus, somebody in Athens, Tom Kastoris, was bringing in a CHIP program. Well, what's CHIP? Well, CHIP stands for Complete Health Improvement Program. I had heard about it maybe a year before, and I thought, I was so excited. So I said, hey, if you want me to help, I'll do something. So I became the foodie for that first class, and I made food for people, not every class, because they didn't have food at every class at that point. And that's how I really got into cooking and doing food demos, and that was April and May of 2011. So now it's 2015, and actually in September we're ready for class 20. So usually they're about 3 times a year, and I want to show you the brochure, and I want to read one sentence to you. By the way, here's a picture of Dr. Hans Diehl. He's over here in the corner, but he's the one that started CHIP, I believe, in the late 1980s. And he is in Loma Linda, California with Lifestyle Medicine Institute. So here's this one sentence. The Complete Health Improvement Program, CHIP, is scientifically proven, a proven lifestyle intervention program that can prevent, arrest, and even reverse today's most common diseases. But doing the CHIP program, I found out that it does more than just help with these major diseases that some of us have, but even small things. People that have gone through CHIP sleep better, have more energy, skin has cleared up. There's so many things that it can help. But the big thing for me, I will tell you, I have to show you because this is what is so important to me, prevention. Now you can't measure prevention. You can measure, your glucose, you can measure cholesterol, but you can't measure prevention. But that's really important to me because I have learned through conferences and CHIP that I can have more control over the health of my own body. And so can everybody. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a doctor, not a dietitian. I'm just going to share some of the things I've learned. Okay. The CHIP program, by the way, the CHIP 20 is coming up in September. And I do want to mention Live Healthy Appalachia is the organization that has several programs, one of them being CHIP in their programs. But we also have a director for CHIP, actually adult education director, and that is Amy Lipka. And her number is 740-249-1798. And you can call her at any time during the year because there's CHIP programs throughout the year. And there's also information sessions. So if you go to the livehealthyappalachia.org website, you can always find out the information sessions and when they are. So for this class, it's going to be 5:30 to 7:30, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's starting September 15th and running until November 12th. So if you're interested, you can call Amy, or you can call the number at Live Healthy Appalachia, and you can check livehappyappalachia.org and find that information. And I will say they have all kinds of books that you get as the part of the program. They have a textbook, they have a workbook, they have a cookbook. So they have a lot of things. And really the encouragement is to eat less of some things and eat more of other things. But what's important and really neat about the program is when you learn all this information through videos and food demos and food tasting, the choice is yours. You get to choose what you want to do with your own body. So I like that part. So I do want to share, talking about food, a few really good websites. You can always go to Google and put in something you want to make and you'll get all kinds of recipes. But there's a few that are kind of special to me, so I'm going to mention those. One is Plant-Based Katie, KATIE.com. She has wonderful recipes. The other one is StraightUpFood.com. So there's also good recipes on her website. FatFreeVegan.com. Unprocessed.com. That is Chef AJ from Los Angeles. In fact, Chef AJ has a book, Unprocessed. And I want to mention some other websites that I think are really good if you're interested in not just maybe some recipes, but articles on health and other information. One is a Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and he did a study at the Cleveland Clinic. That is dresselstyn.com. He wrote a book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. Excellent book, recipes, and really interesting. And now they have a Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease cookbook. So that's Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. And then nutritionfacts.org has videos if you sign up for them. Maybe they're 2 to 6 minutes on all kinds of topics. Or you can just go to his website, Dr. Michael Greger's website, and nutritionfacts.org. drfurman.com is another doctor. He's written several books. Eat to Live is one of his books. He also has Disease Proof Your Child, which is a nice book. And then PCRM, that's the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. That's Dr. Neil Barnard. And he has several books out. One that I just brought to show you is Power Foods for the Brain. I need that for my brain, so we all do. The other thing that Dr. Neil Barnard has out that I really like is the Power Plate. Now, there was the 4 food groups years ago. There was a pyramid. There's my plate. But this is his Power Plate. And on his Power Plate, he's broken up into 4 food groups. Fruits, grains, that would be whole grains, legumes, which would be peas, lentils, and beans, and vegetables. And it says these helpful food groups help you live longer, stay slimmer, and cut your risk of heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure. So that's my favorite there. And when you think about it, when you walk in the store and you're in the produce aisle, there's a lot of fruits and vegetables to choose from. And they're really, really healthy, nutrient dense. They have a lot of nutrients in them. But when you think about it, the grains and the beans, you think, I don't know, I have brown rice, or I have maybe kidney beans. Are there more out there? Well, I just want to show, I'm not going to go over all of them, but I want you to just kind of see. I have 32 containers here of beans that you could use, you could make. You can cook them, from scratch, or you can buy some of them in cans. But that's a lot of beans, and there's more out there. I mean, I've heard there's hundreds of different kind of beans. And as far as the grains, I've got 36 different grains that you can actually pick from. Now, I will say that this whole row is different kinds of rice. This whole row, different kinds of things made out of the oat groats, the whole oats, all kinds, steel cut, rolled oats. So there's and a lot of other grains that are really highly nutritious. So those are the really nutrient dense. They have a lot of nutrients in them. Some people may want to lose a little weight. So it's like, okay, what do you eat? What's the best thing? So I want to talk about a few things about calorie density. What things have the most calories? If you're aware of that, you can maybe choose some better foods to help you lose weight, feel better, be healthier. So what I've done is I've put a lot of foods in a container, and they're all 1 pound. Now, you won't eat all of them at one time. Some of them I don't eat at all. But I wanted to give you an idea of what things look like. Okay? We're going to take the first one. This is a raw salad. This is 1 pound, all kinds of things in there of salad. All right? I have, of course, lettuce, celery, carrots, red pepper, some purple cabbage, some other things. If you eat this, this is an average amount of calories in this, would be about 100 calories, let's say. That's not a lot. You can eat a lot of this and not have a lot of calories. So that's one of the best things, along with the other things to eat. A lot of good raw veggies. Now, you can always cook them, so there's no problem if you need to cook them. So here's some cooked vegetables. This is a pound, and it has actually kale and zucchini in it. And the average of the cooked vegetables would be about maybe 300 calories or less, okay? Actually, a pound of cooked kale is only 227 calories. And when I cook that kale, I mean, it looked like this, but it cooks down, and it's delicious. So that's the vegetables. Then let's go into fruit. This is a pound of fresh fruit. Only about average 300 calories. You could eat all of that, just have about 300 calories, very nutritious. And the berries are extremely healthy. All right, then let's go to some potatoes. Okay, here are 2 potatoes, and take those out for you. These are white potatoes. And they are about 313. Sweet potatoes would be about 390 for a pound. That's what it would give you. Now, you want to put the right things on them if you have potatoes, which would be maybe some salsa, or you could just decorate them with greens and veggies and beans, all kinds of things, not the fatty stuff. But those are potatoes. Now, let's look at something else that's made out of potatoes. Okay? So remember, this was maybe about 313. So one potato would be about 155, say, calories. Let's look at this little bag. This is potato chips. 1 bag of potato chips, 1 ounce, 160 calories, 8 grams of fat, 130 grams of sodium. Well, so how much is that? You know, Dr. Hahn still says, beware of crinkly bags. So let's actually see. You know, when you cut these bags up and you actually see what's only half full, okay? So it's only half full, but we're going to see. We just pour it right in here. Okay? That's it. That's all that's in there. You could eat a potato, all these little chips, and get maybe close to the same amount of calories. What's going to fill you up more, and what's going to be healthier? Okay? So you want to think of chips. Now, I have a bag of potato chips. This is actually almost 3 ounces of potato chips. Again, a crinkly bag. It's really thick. I don't know how many are actually in there, but probably comes to about half. So what is in this if you eat it? The whole bag, because it's hard to eat just one, right? And if I were eating it, I'd eat the whole bag. 460 calories in this bag. 270 of them come from fat. There's 30 grams of actually fat, and 4 grams are saturated. And the sodium, by the way, is 480 milligrams of sodium. And that's not barely 3 ounces of potatoes. So you want to think when you're eating really this healthy food that you're getting not only less calories, but more nutrients. So let's look at the next thing that comes up. Brown rice, 500, and this is a whole pound, which is about 3 cups. So you might not eat 3 cups at a whole setting, but it's 506 calories for that brown rice. Okay, so 1 cup is about 168 calories. Then let's see, we're going to go to, how about some beans, kidney beans. Here we go, 1 pound of red kidney beans, 618 calories. Again, this is almost 3 cups, about 2 3/4. Beans, really, really great for you. Protein, fiber, nutrients. Those are the beans. Now we're going to get to things that are a little bit more calories, okay? Here we have 3 avocados. A pound, just about a pound, a little over a pound with the seed. 732 calories. Now avocados are really healthy fat. They're fine. You probably want to be careful if you're trying to cut calories, how many of those you want to eat. I wouldn't eat 3 at one setting or anything, but those are really nice. Now we're going to go to bread. This is a whole wheat bread. Let's see, this is a pound. So that is, I have 10 slices in here. That is about 1,200 calories. 1 slice is 120 of the bread, and I would prefer something that says whole wheat, which has all parts of the wheat berry in there, which is the endosperm and the germ and the bran on the outside. It has all the nutrients there, but it must say whole wheat. If it just says wheat, it's not whole wheat. So that's at least the first ingredient on some breads. That's really what you want to watch. So now let's look at sugar. 2 cups of sugar. This is 1 pound of sugar, okay? I don't use white sugar anymore, but 1,800 calories. And a lot of times you bake something with, a cup of sugar. So that's like 900 calories in that sugar. All right, let's look at the next thing I have here. Cheese. This is a pound of cheddar cheese. I no longer eat cheese, but we're going to look at it because if you would eat this pound, you'd get 1,920 calories. 1 serving is 120 calories. So what does 1 serving look like? Well, 1 serving of 120 calories looks like this little guy, okay? Well, you can eat something that's really healthy, a lot more than the cheese, and also get about 120 calories. So the next thing I have is cashews for a cream sauce or some dressing once in a while, raw cashews. 1 pound, 2,596 calories. So nuts are very calorie dense. So nuts are fine, but I would encourage you not to eat tons of them, like sit and eat the whole thing. And I'd prefer that I don't use them with oil or any added oil, any added salt. So those are cashews. Now, that was 2,590. Not all nuts have the same amount of calories. These are pecans. This is 1 pound of pecans, and that's 3,212 calories on those. Okay, let's see. Well, how about chocolate? This is a pound of chocolate. Pound of chocolate, 2,200 calories in that chocolate. Smells good. All right, the last thing I have here is 1 pound of oil. This is vegetable oil. 1 pound of oil is 4,000 calories. 1 tablespoon is 120 calories and 14 grams of fat. Now, it's hard to see this, but this is a tablespoon, and the bottom of my little arrow, and it comes to about here. So it's not a lot. A lot of calories, a lot of fat. So when you're eating some of this, you kind of want to think about what you're eating, how many calories, how healthy is it when you're eating. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move some of my stuff. I don't think I showed you my pretzels. I used to love pretzels and vanilla ice cream. Well, I don't miss it. I don't eat it. But I just want to tell you that this bag of pretzels, 3.5 ounces, all right, it comes to about here on the bag, 440 calories in this bag. It says there's 4 servings. Right? 440 calories. And the sodium is 1,800. So that's a lot of sodium in there. This recipe is called Colorful Easy Bean Salad. And we're going to start with beans. Okay, it calls for a cup of kidney beans, or a can of kidney beans, I should say, which is 1.5 cups. If you make your own beans, that's usually what's in a can, 1.5 cups. They're drained and rinsed. All right, so it calls for the 1 cup kidney beans, so we're going to put the kidney beans in there. All right, and then it calls for 1 can of pinto beans, which is, again, 1.5 cups. We'll throw that in there. 1 12-ounce package of frozen Ford Hook lima beans. Well, when I first saw this recipe, like 4 years ago, I thought, what's Ford Hook lima beans? I really had absolutely no idea, so I looked it up. Well, it's not the baby. There's baby lima beans, and they're not related. It's not like the mommy and the baby. So Ford Hook lima beans package. This came from Kroger's, and if you walk in Kroger's and you go left and you go way to the end, the frozen, some of the frozen vegetables, and it's like the second aisle from the last. You would turn right, and it's on the right. Ford Hook. Here they are, lima beans, and this is a 12-ounce package. So I did cook them. So we're going to put those in there. All right. And next it calls for corn. 3 cups of corn, frozen cooked corn, or you could certainly use fresh or any kind you wanted. We'll put that in. All right, then it has a large red pepper. It's about 1.5 cups. And I did want to show you something because I found, there's all kinds of ways to cut a red pepper. All right, and you get the middle out, get the seeds out. But I learned this way not too long ago from a chef. So I have my knife, and I will tell you, so I can show the way to hold the knife is to take your fingers, pointy and the thumb, and go right there at the end. It gives you more control. Okay? So that's the idea of how to hold your knife. And it's better to have a sharp knife than a dull knife because if it falls, it has no handle, so if it falls, don't try to catch it. But if you're cutting something and you're trying to push hard because it's dull and your finger's in the way, that's not a good thing. So you do want a decently sharp knife. All right, so I'm going to cut this red pepper. I'm going to cut that end off. And then I'm going to cut this end off. And I did see 2 chefs. One didn't cut the ends off and one did. I like to cut those ends off. And then I'm going to kind of cut down at one side. And normally, you are down. Yep, I think I put that there. So that you're holding the knife like this. And your hand or knuckles are down here. So we're going to start cutting, and then I'm going to hold it down. It's flat like this against, and I'm just going to give it a roll. I'm going to very slowly cut and roll my red pepper. And be very careful when you come to the end. And there it is. It's all out. I just kind of think that's a neat way. And then you can cut all the rest of your red pepper. Okay, so let's see what's next. Okay, red pepper. Now we have some red onion. So we have 1/4 cup of red onion. And lemon juice. We'll pour that on. Now we're going to mix it all up. And it is colorful. And it is really, really delicious. And I will tell you that if you're not maybe used to eating a lot of the wonderful plant-based foods, tastes do change. And they really do. Some things that you might taste and think, well, you don't care that much for it. You can always doctor it up with spices and herbs and seasonings. But if you give your taste buds some time, and they will change, and you will begin to like a lot of the food that maybe at first maybe wasn't that tasty to you. Of course, some things are tasty right away, but we all have different tastes. We all like different things. But you can really make some excellent food that's healthy and plant-based, a lot of nutrients, not a lot of calories, and love it. All right, so here we go. Let me see if I can hold that up, and you can see that it is colorful. And if you want it to change and you want to taste it, if you tasted it and you think, well, it needs a little bit of this seasoning or that seasoning, or maybe some low-sodium soy sauce or something like that, then you can just fix that up. Now let's see. Our next recipe I thought we would make is some hummus. Now a lot of times you can buy hummus, certainly at the store, and I really like Oasis brand has some really nice zero-fat hummus. It just means there's no tahini in it, which is made out of sesame seeds. But Pharmacy has some, Kroger's has some. That's where I have found it. That's where I usually shop. So we're going to try that. You can make your own if you have a processor. But you don't have to have any of these things to eat healthy. You can have a wonderful salad, wonderful vegetable soup, steamed greens. I mean, you can make a whole meal. And really, it's just a different mindset. I have a different mindset than I had. I mean, years and years ago, it's like, how could I have dinner without a piece of meat? I had to have that. I mean, or it wasn't dinner. I don't feel that way anymore. I mean, I don't miss the meat because my choice, not to eat it anymore. And I can have a wonderful dinner with plant-based foods and just enjoy it tremendously. So we're going to make, now this hummus is called hummus with sun-dried tomatoes. So we're going to start with garbanzo beans or chickpeas. This is again 1 can or 1.5 cups of beans that has been drained and rinsed. Okay. And then it calls for some lemon juice, so we have some more lemon juice here. And the recipe has 1 large date. It's a little sweetness. I like to use sometimes date as sweeteners. This is 1 date. Sometimes you can find them and they're very moist and you don't necessarily need to soak them. But I soak this for about half an hour to an hour in about 1/4 cup of water. And then I save the liquid because I'm going to use that in here. There are a couple dates that you can find around town. The medjool dates, they're the large ones. Usually they have the pits in them. I know that Kroger's has them in bulk and Pharmacy and Bulk Food Depot if you've been there. That's also a really nice store. And then there's some smaller ones that are Deglet Nor. Those are sometimes they can be moist, but they're sometimes a little harder, a little more dried, and usually sometimes you can get them without the pits. But those are, instead of 1 large, you could use 2 small. So those are soaked, and we'll put that in there. All right, the next thing is some sun-dried tomatoes. So I happen to have used Green Edge Organic Gardens organic dried tomatoes. Now these I get at the farmer's market here in Athens, Ohio. And I think they're excellent, and there's no salt added. So I really am enjoying those. So I took about 1/4 cup of chopped, And then I soak that in about a third cup of water, again for at least maybe 30 minutes. And then I drain that, and I'm saving that water to use. So then we're going to put those in. A little bit of liquid. I usually start with maybe a half a cup or less, maybe a fourth to a half, so, because you want it to be able to mix. Maybe you'll need more. You can see how your processor is if you want to do that. If you want to add a lot of more liquid, it depends. Some people can do it in a blender. You just may need a little more liquid. All right, then we have some tahini. Now that's a choice, optional, whether you want to add it in there or not. So we are going to put some tahini in this one. I don't always use the tahini, but we will. Okay, after that it calls for tomato paste. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. You can get them in a can. The pharmacy carries them in a jar. So this is 2 tablespoons. Now, a lot of times you might have a recipe that calls for 1 or 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons or whatever of tomato paste. And it's like, okay, but what do you do with the rest of it? If you don't have a recipe to use it right away, what do you do with the rest of the tomato paste? Well, what I do with mine now is I get an ice cube tray. I get my tablespoon and I measure a tablespoon, and then I put it in each one. And then I freeze it. And then when it's frozen, I take it out and stick it in a bag, put it in the freezer and label it 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. It works really well. In fact, that's what I did today. I just took out 2 other tablespoons instead of opening another can or another jar. So we have some garlic. About a teaspoon of garlic, and you can chop it up real fine a little bit, or you can use a garlic press, to press it without that falling inside. A lot of them don't have something that comes out, but if it does, it's easy to clean. So you can use a garlic press, or you can just kind of, and this is to taste. If you like garlic, you can always put more in. If you don't like any garlic, you don't need any in there. It calls for a little cumin seasoning. So we'll put that in. All right. Okay, now let's put the lid on. We'll see how it goes. And you can decide, well, if you want to add a little more liquid, you can, and that was the soaking liquids that I used for that. Okay. Here we have some hummus with sun-dried tomatoes. It smells good. Now, if you don't like sun-dried tomatoes, you don't need to add them. You can add other things in there. You can put in parsley. You can put in some other herbs. You can put in some vegetables. Anything you'd like. And you could use them as a dip with vegetables or chips. Okay, as far as chips go, you can make your own chips. If you want to get some chips that don't have added oil or salt. Sorry, I keep leaving the camera, but I got to get my stuff. Okay, so here we got some chips. These are chips that I made at home. I actually have chips from 2 kinds of chips here. I have some chips that I cut it in half, and then I cut that in each half in 3 or 4 pieces. You can do that. I put them on a baking sheet, like a cookie sheet. Normally I cover it with parchment paper. And then I bake them at 400 for 13 minutes. You have to check your oven. I find if it's 12 minutes, they're not quite as crunchy when they are cooled, and you sort of have to let them cool to see if you like the crunch. Sometimes if I do it an extra minute, they start to brown too much. So, but you can buy, these are the pharmacy sprouted corn tortillas. And there's a little sodium in here, not a lot. But also I make them out of shag bark, seed and mill. Here they have got some corn tortillas, and those came from the farmer's market in Athens, Ohio. And you can make your own chips, and you can use them for a dip for your hummus. So I wanted to show you that. Now I'm going to move this out of the way and get one more thing I have to show you. All right, I'm going to make something using tofu. I happen to like tofu, made out of soybeans. There's more than one kind of tofu. Some of you may be very familiar with it. But there's a silken tofu. If it says silken, the texture is very soft and really good for like puddings and dressings or sauces or something like that. This is in something called an aseptic package, which means you can just put it on your shelf. It doesn't need to go in the refrigerator. If you open it and have any leftover, you can store it for a while if you have leftover of any kind of tofu, but it does need to be stored in water and then changed maybe every couple days. So that's that kind. But today I'm using firm tofu. This is a different texture. This is better for, you can slice it, you can cube it, you can mash it. And this happens to be firm tofu, Simple Truth. This is a Kroger brand, but there's other brands out there. So that's what I used. I took it out, I rinsed it, I put it on a plate. What we're going to make now is some tofu scrambler. And what I want to show you is that you can saute vegetables with no oil. You really don't need oil. So we'll get my skillet on. And if I were using my stove, I would put it medium high. Usually I do medium. So we'll get this out of the way. I'm going to start with a cup of onions. And normally I wait till the pan is hot. This gets hot pretty fast. So you can take your onions, and in fact you can go to YouTube and find out, there's different videos on how to saute without oil. You can use broth. You can use something else besides oil. I like to start out with just the onion in a hot pan. And you'll hear it sizzle and the liquid will come out of the onions. And if it starts to stick somewhat to the pan and the pan gets a little brown, that's fine. I'll add just a tiny bit of water. Stir it around, picks up the bottom part. Actually, that's how you caramelize onions. If you do that enough and get the bottom, whatever is on the bottom, the dark part of the bottom, and then mix it in with the onions and do the same thing over, and that can caramelize them. A lot of flavor in the onions when you do it that way. So we're going to put them on here. It's already starting to sizzle. If a recipe calls for onions and garlic, I usually do the onions first and add the garlic the last minute because I've heard that it can burn, so I do that. But if you have a recipe sometimes that when you're going to saute with something like mushrooms, so much liquid comes out of the mushrooms, you really don't even need to add water at all. What you could also do is take the lid to the pan, and while you're sauteing the onions, you can put the lid on and it keeps some of that moisture in. So that's another thing. It's called sweating. So you can do that also. And I am got some mushrooms there, so I'm going to put the mushrooms in. And normally this would take, I don't know, maybe about 6 to 8 minutes to get them cooking. So the other things that it calls for, while those cook, we'll go over those, okay? We'll put the lid on a little bit. celery, half a cup of celery, half a cup of carrots. I've got some more red pepper, some garlic, a little bit of garlic. And then the seasonings I have, I put them together in one thing. There's turmeric. That really is going to give it a nice color. It's going to almost look like an egg salad. Turmeric, some cumin, some curry powder, and you could certainly add something else if you like hot and spicy. Put in some chili powder or whatever you like, would be just fine. Now this is doing just fine, no water, haven't needed any water at this point. It's cooking up there. The other thing I have is some tamari. Tamari is a gluten-free soy sauce. This is reduced sodium, and there is, sodium in here, of course, but certainly less. I think the regular has about 1,010 for just 1 tablespoon. This actually has 700 for a tablespoon. So I do like to use that once in a while. So this just calls for a tablespoon of that. Sometimes there's something called Bragg's amino acids, if you haven't heard of that. That also you can use like a soy sauce also. Okay, so let's see how we're doing here. All right. I think we're going to add the rest of the vegetables. Put in the celery. I mean, this is just doing really well. Put in the celery, we'll add the carrots. So this is also going to be colorful and nutritious. Now we're ready for a little water. So I just put just a tiny bit. It will sizzle, move it around. It'll pick up everything that's on the bottom of the pan as it's cooking. Put in the red peppers. All right. Going to add the garlic. And we're going to put in about, for this to cook, add about 1/3 cup of water. Mix it around. And then we're going to put in the tamari, tablespoon of tamari. We'll throw in the seasoning. And I have nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast it's not baker's yeast. It's not brewer's yeast, which is a yeast that's a byproduct from beer making. This is little flaky yellow nutritional yeast. It's very high in B vitamins. It gives things a cheesy flavor. Sometimes I like to just sprinkle it on something as is. You can also take it and make something like called a faux Parmesan topping. You can take, say, a cup of maybe almonds or walnuts if you like, cup of nuts, kind of usually use the almonds. You can put a 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast. This is in my processor. And then a tablespoon of some kind of no-salt seasoning, something you really like. I like onion granules or something like that. I really like the onion granules. So a little bit of nutritional yeast in there. We'll let that cook for just a bit there. And the last thing we're going to add is our tofu. So this was 1 block of tofu. That was the firm. We're going to throw that in. And we're going to mix that up. And it will start, because of the seasonings, it's going to start and turn yellow and cook up really nice. And I think it's delicious. You can see how colorful that is. as long as I keep everything in the pan there. And really all you have to do is maybe cook it about 5 minutes. It's ready to eat. This can be a breakfast. This can be lunch, side dish, lunch, supper. This can be for a sandwich. Any way you'd like to eat it. And it's good and it's healthy. So that's scrambled tofu with mushrooms. And you can always add more of mushrooms or less of something, whatever you want to do to it, and you can just make it the way you like it. So those are a few of the things that I wanted to make. I have down here on this recipe some other suggestions for the tofu scrambler with mushrooms. So I'll read those to you. I mentioned some of them. Onion and garlic powder you could put in there. Any other kind of maybe a no salt seasoning you might like. Fresh herbs. If you like mustard flavor, you could put some mustard in there. You can throw in some tomatoes. You could even put some greens. You know, greens are like just the top there of the vegetable. They are like so healthy. There's kale and collards, there's spinach, there's beet greens, Swiss chard, broccoli. I mean, those just are packed full of nutrients. And you can eat them raw. Some of them you can eat them steamed. Kale I eat raw and steamed or cooked, however you want to make it. If you're going to have something like kale raw, sometimes you can kind of massage it a little bit and break up the cell walls, and maybe a little bit easier to chew. You want to chew all your vegetables and your foods well. There's one doctor that says, chew your food to a cream. And that is important to chew well, and as you're, when you're eating some of these foods. So you give your jaws good exercise. So the other thing that you could add, so besides some of the greens like spinach or something, you could put some beans and grains in here. I mean, I could have added some of my beans. I could have added some of my rice. I could fix it up any way I wanted. Maybe even some nuts and seeds or salsa. You could put some salsa in there and just play around with it. And it's all ready to go. A lot of the things you might make, you could just, you can even cold the next day. And we talked about potatoes. You could cook your potatoes, and I'll tell you, there's some sweet potatoes that the next day, if they're cold, I'd cut them up, and I can eat those cold. They're like candy to me, sweet potatoes. There's the orange sweet potatoes, and you may see them called yams at some time, but they're really not related to real yams. A lot of yams are actually grown in Africa and can be very large, but actually I had read that when the sweet potato came over to America, it was the white sweet potato, because you can buy sweet potatoes like the Japanese sweet potato has a white flesh inside. And then when they brought the other ones that are orange, so there wouldn't be confusion, they called them yams, even though they're not really typically yams. But that's fine. When you find them in the store and it says yams, you know the inside's going to be yellow or an orange color, actually. Some places, if you see Japanese sweet potatoes, they usually have a kind of a dark red outside, but they have a white inside. Texture's a little bit more solid, and I think, like I say, those are excellent. I've even gotten purple sweet potatoes. Those I had to order from Hawaii, but and I just did that a couple times. So it was interesting. I like to try new things. If it's a vegetable or fruit or whatever, I just like to try it because I know that it's so healthy. Okay. Oh, I just want to tell you something about greens I was thinking about. Kale, usually kale and collard greens. If you've ever seen a collard green, it's a big leaf. And I don't eat the stem of those two. But the stem of beet greens, if you buy beet greens, if you buy the beets and you get the greens, those are great. You can steam those, and those are like really, really good. Swiss chard, I eat the stem. If I'm going to cook that or steam that, I cut the stem up and put that in the pot and put the greens on it. So those are all really, really healthy that you can make. But if you ever saw a color leaf, you can take it and you can steam it for maybe a couple minutes or put it in boiling water for several seconds or whatever and take it out so it's limp, and roll it up and use it and make like sushi or something. You could actually use it instead of bread or a nori wrap for sushi, and you could put this in it. And you could roll it up. So that's another good way. Thank you very much. I appreciate being able to talk to you about healthy eating, sharing some of the recipes that I like, and going over some of the things that it's out there. There's tons of healthy eating out there, and so I would check out some of the websites, some of the recipes, and work on putting some healthy plant-based foods in your body. Thank you.
I'm lucky. I suggested they should have somebody eating this wonderful food, and I got invited. So here I am with Arlene Basil and tasting the tofu scrambler, which is over there.
This one?
And easy bean, quick
Salad.
bean, quick
Easy bean salad.
salad.
And that's this one. Yeah.
And it looks quick, but it's chock full of goodies.
Yes, and very colorful. Both of them are colorful.
Yes.
And thank you for tasting my food.
Well, thank you for making it. I look forward to the show.
Thanks.